No, he can't. Now he can.
Okay.
Good to have you, Greg. Appreciate you being here. You're muted.
Thank you. Coming back to my roots.
All right. Let it also be known that Carlos Trejo, Olivet's Director of Planning and Community Development Department, as well as Dawn Doty, Senior Planner, and is Bridget Waters,
Yes,
Waters
She
via
is
Zoom.
online.
Okay, great.
And Chairman, if I can acknowledge that Commissioner Lewis has just logged on.
Oh, fantastic. Good to see you, Brian. Glad you could make it.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Okay. Okay, well, welcome to the meeting tonight. We appreciate it. As I kind of repeat myself, we do get better and better with these Zoom meetings. We get more accustomed, but there's always new surprises. So bear with us as we go through this. At the beginning of the meeting, we will hold public comments. These are for items that aren't related to anything that's currently on the agenda. So if you do have a public comment that you wish to make known, please acknowledge, raise your hand at the bottom, and we can bring you on board. We do remind you that we do limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes to respect everybody's time and be able to make sure we get everybody's opinions heard. We do ask you that you state your name and address for the record, and also turn on your video if you can. We can help you out if you don't know how to do that. Carlos, do we have any public comments?
If anybody would like to speak regarding a non-agenda item, if you can show your hand, it's located in the lower part of your monitor, I believe right center. And again, this would be if it's regarding a non-agenda item. And Chairman, I see none.
Good.
And everybody I see on, I know is associated with a specific item.
As we move into old business and as we go into new business, I just want to kind of go over, we'll have staff reports that be presented by either Carlos or Dawn. We'll have time for members of our commission to discuss those with them. And then we'll typically bring on the petitioners and ask them questions. And then we'll also have public comments on each agenda item as well. So if you do have a comment directly related to that, when that item comes up, please make sure that you raise your hand so we can make sure we can get your opinion heard. Okay, or opinion or comment heard. Okay, with that being said, we'll move on to item number 4, old business. And this is item A, 7 Arbor Road. Petition type is a site plan, community design, concept stormwater management plan review for a new single family home. The petitioner is Denise Eisel. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And she's a project manager with Jeff Day and Associates. Property owner is Robert Berkeley and Son Development Company. Carlos.
All right, Chairman. This item was originally introduced to the commission on August 19th. Action was deferred on this item regarding several concerns regarding stormwater management, both on the site and off the site grounds. The commission had directed staff to meet with the adjacent property owners who were present at that meeting for discussions regarding ongoing stormwater problems that they had within that area. We kind of went over the drainage patterns and the basin along Arbor and the micro area and the impacts, because they get stormwater from as far west as Ramsgate and as far east as Bowood and all the way north up to Old Bonham. And it kind of congregates right and runs right across through this site. So the proposed plans incorporate the following changes, hoping to address the issues that were noted and discussed by the commission. One was regarding the stormwater. So the petitioners met with staff and the neighbors to discuss possible options. It appears that the solution that they're looking at is to expand a BMP here along the front of the property. And I'm hoping that the mouse should show on your monitor here. They've kind of ballooned, redlined it here, that they would do a BMP improvement in which they would put some some type of softer soil to kind of help absorb some of that, and also some rocks to kind of slow down the velocity. So with the absorption and the velocity, the intent is to not overwhelm a culvert that the driveway kind of runs over. There is an existing hard pipe system that runs through there, and some of the thought is that there's so much stormwater going in, and that the speed of it is so fast that that the system is probably undersized to take in the capacity of these short storm bursts. So in the discussions with the neighbors, they recognize the issues that were going on with the culvert and the speed and the velocity and the amount of storm water. So both the north and south neighbors are looking to do similar type of BMPs, which we call best management practices, kind of either rain gardens or some type of on-site detention basin to help, again, slow down some of that water. That will help tremendously if we can slow it down, but also to help on some of the absorption. But there's a large amount of stormwater that goes through here. So the absorption is really a minute portion of the problem here. And the city recognizes that we have a pretty significant drainage issue along this area, given the stormwater shed that lies here. And, you know, it's really the infrastructure there is inadequate. I think the current system is private in there, but I think the city needs to be a little bit more proactive with MSD to kind of look and address this issue. When MSD looks at it, they look at how many rooftop units would benefit from the public investment. And these are large lot areas, so you know, you don't get the same impact as the number of houses that would have an improvement. But when you look at the watershed as a whole, I think we'd have a better argument and rationale for MSD to take a serious look at doing some improvements along Arbor Road. So long story short, we met with each property owner, north, south, and the developer. I think there was some collaboration and overall consensus of trying to address this issue with you know, some type of on-site detention of a BMP on the site. The developer was willing to take the lead and do that along that front area. We talked about different designs, and at this point, you know, it was my suggestion that they just kind of bubble it in and bring that option before the commission, and the commission either could allow staff to continue an administrative review and process on issuing that, or the developer come back 60 or 90 days with a more refined BMP if the commission wants to see what the actual solution would be. The second item that was noted was if you look at this slide right here, center left. Sorry, I got the wrong mouse here. Center left. Again, you know, the natural stormwater flow is from the top left to the lower, the corner right. And while there is no significant change in what the direction that stormwater is going, by the relocation or the placement of the house, it now kind of squeezes in the contours. And when you do that, again, you start to pick up volume. And when you pick up volume, you start to create speed. And there was a concern that volume and speed were going to go straight directly to improvements of the adjacent property owner, that improvement being the actual house. They have a garage side that faces northward. And there was concerns that, you know, while in paper, it looks like it could do an adequate turn, the reality is that it would probably get overwhelmed given the amount of stormwater that it would capture. So what they've done is address this issue by refining and putting an additional swell and moving the existing driveway 5 feet to the north, and then bringing that swell across and then towards the lower end of the lot. That should help alleviate any problems with it overwhelming and jumping and going down to the south. We talked with the adjacent property owner about that, and they were aware of some issues and items that they've seen already, even without these improvements. And also we're working on some some issues on the retaining wall along there. So I think this will would help. Again, it's just, I don't think there really isn't a change in the flow of the stormwater, but this will help better manage it and redirect it towards the street and away in a direct direction to the garage here on the lower end, or what would be the south. Be glad to answer any specific questions. In a nutshell, I think those were the two significant issues from the staff perspective and that we discussed at the commission. There was some discussions about brick in there, and I think the developers is considering adding some additional brick, but I think again, from the guideline perspective, we found that it was consistent with the 50% requirements under the guidelines.
Carol?
Yeah, Carlos, when the water collects in that swale, how does it get to the street?
Good question. So I'll get a little closer to take a look. So the water right now kind of flows, of course, from the upper left-hand corner to the lower right-hand corner. With the new home here, it's now going to collect in this swell system here, and it's picked up along here with another swell that runs between the new driveway and the property line. And then there is a retaining wall that kind of runs right adjacent on the property line. It kind of shifts and back. Some of it's kind of some rock stones, and then there's actually some height differential as you get further into the adjacent property owner's lot.
But it doesn't go to the street. It goes back to the creek that's kind of in the front of the.
Correct. It goes back. Yeah, it would be impossible to kind of, there's such a low area at that point that it's, I don't want to say it's a bridge, but it does have the culvert in there. So it goes to this point being the low area, and then that starts going up.
Okay.
The other
Well, it
thing,
doesn't actually
Commissioner
go to
Wagner.
the street, it just goes to the stormwater collection.
Correct. Mhm.
Okay.
The other aspect of this is by relocating the garage from the south side to the north side, this hard surface area that's right adjacent to the property owners, pretty close to the property line, all that would be removed and become green space.
But any other questions? Go ahead.
Just really quickly, this is maybe a drum that I need to stop beating, but just this is a comment on the brick and the vinyl siding for the non-brick material that's displayed on the front of the house. My personal view is that people should be doing what they can to avoid having a discrete line between the brick and the vinyl siding. And if you look at this house, we have one face that's brick and faces on the side that are vinyl siding with just a sharp line right at the corner that divides those two materials. I don't have a specific solution to this problem, although we've discussed some of them in the past, having it wrap around a certain percentage or something like that. But I'll just note that, once again, we have another house which just has these faces with different materials on them. And if I'm the only person who doesn't like this, I'm happy to be quiet and just let it go. But I'm just curious to get the input of the rest of the group on that.
Carol, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I tend to like when the corners are wrapped. I think that generally looks a little better. I guess I struggle with this particular design because it's Georgian, and to me, Georgian is very precise, I guess. So, I mean, I'm not a designer by any stretch of the imagination, but to me, that kind of made a difference.
Yeah, where I come down on this one, just for the sake of maybe putting this to bed, is on the garage door, you'll notice that there's like a cap and a half wall where the brick wraps around. That's kind of a nice detail. The chimney has brick that cuts through and breaks up that large vinyl siding side. So there's some things that seem to break it up a bit, which I think makes it better. I just didn't want to drop this issue because I think this is not a bad example of it, but I think there are some pretty bad examples of that I've seen.
Right.
Even some that we've allowed to be built, and I just thought it should be part of the discussion. That's all.
But it was nice that it was all full brick, well above our
Agree.
standard,
Yeah, agree.
50%.
Agree.
So, and I think they did add Carlos, do you know the areas that they added? It looked like they did.
It was
add
along
those
the sides, the
half
side
walls.
elevations, correct. I think you should be seeing one of the side elevations there,
Yeah, A8.
and I can go to the other side. So that would be the side facing south, not the side that Mr. Brophy is. Bear with me 1 second. I'm not sure. Yes, this would be the garage side that Mr. Brophy was alluding to.
I personally kind of share Carol's kind of point of view. I mean, I think it might be nice, but I'm not a designer and I don't want to. I mean, if that wraparound would somehow be a architectural,
A
you know,
faux pas.
yeah, right, right. I wouldn't want to have us be the ones imposing. You know.
Yeah, and I guess my point in raising these details that I think offset it is to say, if we see another house that doesn't have those things, I think we should be more prepared to raise a flag about it. But here, I think there are some things that counter
Agree.
the problem.
Agree. Carlos, I just had one question. That was on the BMP. Are they planning on using any vegetation or anything like that to help absorb some of the water?
That's yet to be determined. We talk more about rock, like having a sand type of ground with some gravel rock and then some larger rocks in there. The purpose on that, again, my concern is that speed that's coming down and slowing that. With the sand that would allow for some filtration. Now, looking at it more from a plant level, I think it might get overwhelmed if it was just solely plants in there, that volume that runs through in some of the pictures I saw.
Oh, I wouldn't think only, but I was
Mhm.
thinking if you had it in addition,
Yeah, we'll
you
take
know,
a
where
look at
you
that.
could set it up where, like a dry creek where,
Correct,
you know, it allows it to pool up, but then absorb into the plants, you know, something to that extent.
absolutely.
My personal feeling, I'm not sure if we want to, I think we should better hear from the petitioner
All right.
before we kind of further
Oh, and there's
discuss.
a hand up.
Yeah, it's the petition.
Okay.
Mr. Berkeley, I'm going to promote you to a panelist and you should be able to address the commission. If you can state your name and address and also have your video, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. So I'm Bob Berkeley, I'm the owner.
Hey, Mr. Berkeley, can you have your operate the video also, or?
I don't know what I'm doing. So, um,
Fine.
turn on my camera or,
If possible, if you can get,
Let's see, you
Sometimes it
guys.
looks like a video monitor or a little video camera.
yeah, it's on my laptop. How about now?
It's actually on the. It's actually on the app at the bottom of the screen. It'll say stop video. And just select that.
Or it should say start video.
How about now?
Good, good.
There you go.
Am I on?
Yep.
Okay, well, so I'm the owner, the developer, and let's start with the easy part. So the brick you're talking about, the owners decide they're gonna put all the brick back on. So all the front and the sides will be all brick.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
I
Great.
thought I did that, so, but they are gonna do that. Am I still on?
yes, sir.
Yes. Very good.
Okay, and then the stormwater, so we had that meeting and we kind of decided that we're gonna widen the ditches, and it looks like we'll probably put like 2 inches of sand down and then put the rocks on there so that it absorbs the water and slows it down. And the neighbor to the north is gonna participate because he wants to help and slow it down and stop the problems that we're having.
Are you gonna consider using any vegetation or plants associated
Like
with?
Carlos said, I think we were thinking more of like a big, like riprap, a bunch of rock. Kind of slow it down and collect it at the bottom and slowly release it through the culvert.
I don't
The
have. it.
vegetation is more of a storm garden.
Okay, I don't have any strong opinions, but I just suggest you might consider it. It might help.
Yeah, we can look into it.
And Chairman, if I can ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
The purpose would be to get the vegetation within the rock area or to get vegetation along the perimeter,
Along
more
the
of as an
perimeter.
aesthetic. So I would assume some type of landscape plan will be prepared by your client.
Yeah, we'll look at, yeah, sure.
Okay, good. Any other questions for the owner here? I don't see none. Is there any other further discussion? I personally would probably feel comfortable with staff, handling the BMP and going through that unless there's further discussion.
Agree.
All right. So do I hear a motion?
Chairman, if we can just see if there's
Oh,
any public
thank
comment.
you. Thank you for reminding me.
No problem. So if there's anybody that would like to speak in regards to this petition application, if you can show your hands on it and we'll transfer you over. Mr. Scuddy, I'm going to transfer you over as a panelist. And again, if you can state your full name, address, and have your video available, we would be greatly appreciated. Then I have another hand after that, Mr. Trotter. I'll bring you in after. Shut it. There you go.
Okay, sorry.
No problem.
My name is Joanna Schutte, and I am the neighbor to the south at number 6 Arbor Road. I was able to meet with both Carlos and with Bob, and they very thoroughly went through all the proposed changes to the original plan, and we talked about their plan to widen and deepen the creek or the water runoff. And I'm in agreement with everything that we've talked about, and I really appreciate all the time and effort you guys spent in taking time to work on the proposed changes and meet with us. I also appreciate the extra in the back. I'm the one with the retaining wall, so I really appreciate any help there. But I'm definitely in agreement, so thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
All right. Mr. Trotter, I'm going to promote you to a panelist. And again, if you can state your name, address, and have your video available, it'd be greatly appreciated. Mr. Shetty, I'm going to move you back as an attendee.
Greetings, everybody. Are we on?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. And thanks to Ms. Schutte, number 6. I've also talked to the folks at number 8.
Sure. Would you
I
mind?
was Frank Trotter, 2 Arbor Road. And I'm also a trustee of the Lower Arbor Road Association. And I just want to add to Joanna's comments that we really appreciate Mr. Berkeley working with everybody. We appreciate the brick. We appreciate the work on the water. As Bob mentioned, the folks at number 8 are going to work with him to additionally slow down the water. And we're looking forward to having the house built.
Good, good, good. Thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. Carlos, are there any more comments?
If anybody else would like to speak regarding this petition application, if you can show a hand. At this point, I don't recognize any additional neighbors. But again, if I'm missing somebody, please show your hand. It's located in the center part of the lower part of the monitor. And Chairman, I see none.
Okay, great. It's good to have those comments from the public. So do I hear a motion?
Chairman,
Go ahead, Carol.
I'd like to motion to approve the petition for community design and concept stormwater management plan review for a new single-family home at number 7 Arbor Road as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated September 23, 2021, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
I will second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Carlos, will you please call the vote?
Absolutely. Commissioner Rosenberg? Yes. Commissioner Lewis, who's video conferencing?
Approve.
Commissioner Brophy?
Approved. And thanks for everyone working so well together on this. It's refreshing.
Yes.
Commissioner Rich?
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner?
Approved.
And Chairman Jurgo?
Approved.
And the motion passes unanimously, 6-0.
Good, good. Thank you, Mr. Berkeley. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you. Appreciate it.
Okay, Carlos, I'll let you get settled before we move into new business items.
All right, Chairman, before you is a petition for a pool and pool deck that exceeds the administrative authority that's permitted by code. And there, the property is located at 724 Cherry Tree Lane in the Harvest Acres subdivision. That's an area that saw quite a bit of development since 2008. They're smaller lots ranging from 50 to about 75 feet in width, depths, and given the considerable increase, kind of led to establishing some cap limits on the floor areas and such. And of course, we've also had some restrictions on the size or the amount of accessory structures. We received a petition in here, and one of the first things we do, as you can see the property here, is take a look at what the square footage and areas are. Under the current accessory code, the maximum combined square footage of all accessory structures should not exceed 10% of the lot area. For pools, there is a stepping system that is based on your size of the pool that is allowed administratively is based on your lot area. So there's a scale. 10,000 square foot lot can have up to a 500 square foot pool that is permitted administratively, doesn't have to come to the commission. If it exceeds the 500 square feet, then it requires commission review and approval because of concept stormwater management. And there, it doesn't say that you can't exceed the 500 at all. It just says it can't be authorized administratively. It has to come back to the commission. The commission's role, especially for flat work, is looking at the impacts of stormwater. But again, there is a cap on there that the total amount of accessory structures cannot exceed 10% of the lot area. The original application that came in, bear with me here, was a pool here that had approximately 21% of combined accessory area. The existing patio that was located on the property, you can see it right here in that background here. An extension of that patio to go to a pool deck and a pool that was 595 square feet. Well, this lot is only 8,704 square feet, meaning that the 10% capacity, cap is limited to 872 square feet. So once you take consideration of the new pool deck and the pool, it far exceeded and they're almost doubled the amount of coverage that would be in the backyard. The petitioner or the property owner decided to appeal to the Board of Zoning Adjustments. And their thought was that the ordinance as written really kind of penalizes smaller lots in there. From a staff argument is we kind of noted, well, it's based on a percentage. So that percentage grows as you have a bigger lot. And that was understandable. I think the board had a understanding of that aspect. But if you look at other sections of the code, the amount of coverage that is permitted kind of has a stepping structure in there. So that, as you look at a percentage, it's going to be all the way going the same. When you look at the stepping structure, it takes into account, okay, so these lots, even though they're small, they would benefit from a little bit more, like, in a step. And these lots that are larger, when you apply that percentage, they get a lot more surface area, that there was it wasn't fair, I guess, just to put it simply. It didn't take that into consideration. Our argument was, well, we did have that discussion, but we really didn't know what the right cap should be. We had Mr. Roper at that time to do an analysis and come up with various coverages. And then we also took a look at what previous petitions were, more for what the commission was comfortable allowing staff administratively to authorize. And then we created this 10% number as something we kind of thought that was reasonable. And then there was discussion on the commission side that, hey, if any of these caps on accessory structures becomes unreasonable, we would relook at that issue. Well, lo and behold, within the past, this summer, we had 2 petitions that both exceeded the 10% in there. One of them appealed, and that was 724 Cherry Tree Lane. They went before the Board of Adjustment, but the scope of the Board of Adjustment was pretty narrow. They're not there to write policy or write code, just to determine whether the code is if there's an unnecessary hardship on a specific property. But they're residents just like you are, and they sympathize with property owners and their views and wants, of course, on property in there. And they allowed the petitioner to exceed the coverage requirement up to 13.75%. So they told the petitioner, saying, we'll let you go over the 10%. Really, the 10% was somewhat over regarding the size of this lot, an 8,000 square foot lot, and say you're only going to do 800 square feet of surface area in there. But they were too concerned about going too far to the 21%. So the consensus was 13.75 square feet. So that's been authorized by the Board of Adjustment. So the petitioner has submitted a revised petition, and that is what you would see here in there, in which the coverage of the existing concrete patio, the new pool deck, and the pool itself would total 13.75% as authorized by the Board of Adjustment. So now, so why is it back here in there? Well, again, the accessory structure code has limitations in there. One is the patio. We are only authorized to administratively approve a patio that's 500 square feet. In this case, there were the original request was about 1,200 square feet. And again, it's not that it's a hard no that they can't do it. The way this is drafted is that staff would prefer to go to the commission to have the various eyes and professionals to take a look at how it impacts stormwater. And then a pool for a 10,000 square foot lot to be administratively approved can't exceed 500 square feet. This pool's 595 square feet. So again, the petitioner had the choice of making the determination: do I want to go down to 500 square feet, or do I want to stay at 595? And the discussion with them is again, if it's 500 square feet or less, I have an administrative authority to issue the permit. If you exceed that, you got to go to the commission, and then you got to kind of show us how you're handling stormwater. And they have indicated how they're doing so. There is a rock bed that exists back here in a couple of more little items of how they've addressed stormwater, both with the house construction and their changes in their lot over time. So they understand that aspect, and that's why this is here before you today. Be glad to answer any questions. I don't see the petitioner on at the time, and we were trying to kind of out of courtesy kind of expedite this on their part. So they were able to get the plans to me, but not sure they had a scheduling issue. So I do apologize. This would work. This would be consistent with the Board of Adjustments review. It would comply with all the other parameters for accessory structures like being placed directly behind the house meet the necessary setbacks, for the exception of the excess coverage for the pool size, which is 95 square feet. And then for the deck size, which actually is 407 square feet. And by code, they would have been permitted to go up to 500. So really what the commission is kind of assessing is that additional 95 square feet of the pool. And that was another thing that the Board of Adjustment talked about, of whether a pool itself should be considered permeable or non-permeable. And we did have that discussion when it was before the commission, but we looked at it, it's still a structure, it's still an improvement. And therefore we left it as is. Now, the petitioner and the Board of Adjustment, following their decision, kind of directed staff to bring this to the commission's attention and to look at, a possible code amendment to change that cap. That in no case shall the total square footage of the combined area of all accessory structures on a lot exceed 10% of the lot total. That we should kind of take a look at it more to have a stepping structure like you would have here for the pool size, where if you had a lot that was 10,000 square feet, maybe you get 15%. If you have a lot that's 20,000 square feet or more, then you go back to the 10%, and that would somewhat balance those out. The big issue that we would have to address, though, is again, we kind of struggle with what the purpose was for the coverage requirement. If, in terms of, is the intent to, is it a green space, or is it a site coverage because of stormwater and all that? And on the commercial side, we really push this density concept and trying to get the most what we can, because we have a very narrow corridor. But in lieu, they provide very structured detention systems to help handle that. On the residential side, we kind of flip what the goal is in there, and whether it's consistent or not, it is an issue that we have to discuss. And again, are smaller lots being penalized on there? But usually that's where we have the biggest stormwater issues, is when we have more dense compact homes. So it's a good discussion, something worth looking at in there, and that's where we're at. But at least regarding the petition that's been submitted here, again, the issue here is that the pool size is 95 square feet beyond the 500 squares. So 500 square feet that's permitted administratively. And then the pool deck, again, the proposed pool deck's a little bit over 400, but keep in mind, there's still 180 square feet that's existing. So whether that, the code's not specifically clear where I'm supposed to add those two, or if they're treated separately. And I'm gonna look at it as it does exceed it, and that's why we're here at the commission. And they are looking, they do have an existing rock garden in the back of their property to help address the stormwater.
That's a quick question.
Sure.
Carlos, what are you looking for us to do this evening? Because I don't have a cover sheet, so I don't know. Are we theoretically moving for and approving the site plan and stormwater plan for this?
Yes,
Okay.
for the designs before you on your monitors, because it's
Okay.
not on the screen.
Okay.
And that
Carol?
makes sense.
Carlos, I'm gonna back up for a minute. Could you explain to me how they came up with 13.75%?
The commission really struggled on trying to come to some compromise.
Mhm.
And the 13.75 got the pool deck and the pool primarily finished. They still had to make some adjustments compared to the original. The original petition, as you can see, that it doesn't go all the way up to the retaining wall and such, but they were trying to get something. Again, when you look at the Board of Adjustment, their role is, of course, regarding the hardship or if there's difficulties in the code, but they also have an empathetic size that how far do you exceed that variance request,
Mhm.
where again, it's someone that may need a foot may have a better positioning for an argument than somebody that needs 10 feet.
Mhm.
So when they came in with that 21 That was way, it just didn't, the commission felt very uncomfortable. That was too extreme, and they kind of went round and round thinking of that 13.5. Staff suggestion was about 15%. And again, we try to keep from a zoning things, things to work in sequences. So 10, 15, 20, but the commission still had a hard time when you look at it numerically, because it was a couple of hundred square feet that would authorize. When you look at it
50%
from
more
a
than
percentage,
what was authorized.
yeah, it's a little bit more palatable.
This is kind of an odd percentage. that's what I'm
It is, but it was something that the commission, and then they struggled with it. There was numbers thrown around. This is one that I got a consensus. Now, I have two individuals that were at that meeting that can speak in regards to the board, and one in terms of can speak in regards to what they saw as a council member. So if you'd like.
I'd be happy because I sit on that board. I know when we were all discussing it, we were trying to kind of, discuss what range we would be happy with. And the ranges that were being thrown about, were like 12.5 to 15, but there was some kind of concern of going to the 15. It's allowing 50% more than what was in our regulations. And we thought that was just, that was, there was some hesitancy there.
Mhm.
So it was kind of one of those things to, make a decision, we kind of split the middle and went with the 13.75.
Okay.
And then it was kind of some suggestions to bring this back to the board, to look at, further policies or look at, the potential for adjustments, but a lot of people on that board didn't feel comfortable with making that sort of policy decision. They were afraid of, maybe they weren't seeing everything that was potentially a concern. Some of the things that were also kind of brought about was, the pool. The pool itself, even though it's a hard surface, it does retain water. It retains it temporarily because, the pool will fill up and you basically have to pump it out eventually. But you typically do that after a rain event. So it does, in some ways, act like a retaining, basin, during that storm event. So that's a good thing. But the negative part about it is it takes away from the permeable surface that can absorb, the rainwater. So there were some questions about that. There was also some questions about, I think what Carlos mentioned was the density, aspect. How much green space do we want as a community? And with the discussion of the density issues of, kind of the commercial areas, and some of the, these streets with the smaller lots, they're building pretty good sized homes. And that's becoming a higher density area. So it is trying to find that balance. And where do we want the neighborhood to go to, but still give, people with these smaller lots the ability to do some things that, most everybody else can.
Chairman?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Hold on, Brian, if you don't mind, let's let Carol, and then we'll come back to you.
I would like to suggest that, well, we've had some of that discussion when we were first putting the ordinance together, that we hold it for either the end of the meeting or for another time where we can really get into it and
Agreed.
have some discussion. And
Agreed.
let's concern ourselves with the petition in front of us for the purposes of this evening's agenda.
I agree. I think it definitely needs to be brought up and, kind of further discussed before we run into some other situations. Brian, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No problem at all. I agree with Carol. I think parking it, because my concern is the equity of, someone who buys a smaller lot, shouldn't be penalized to 10% versus someone who has a half acre. But I agree, it's a much longer discussion. So maybe another topic at another meeting, but we can move forward with this.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
One concern I'm going to articulate is one of setting a precedent with using the Board of Adjustment for this kind of thing. We have a strict number, 10%. That's the
Right.
number. And my understanding of the charter of the Board of Adjustment is that it's there to identify unique aspects of a certain property, corner lot, super narrow lot, something unique to that property, which causes them to be in a particular hardship that perhaps the the rules that we promulgated don't anticipate or grapple with.
And that was discussed.
And so the concern I have is we just saw an aerial view. There are tons of these houses, right? This is not a unique lot. I understand that they want to build a pool. I think it looked quite nice. I don't have any objection to it as it stands. The concern I have is we're using the Board of Adjustment to get around the rules. And if the rules need to be revisited, then that's what we should be doing. I don't know that the Board of Adjustment is the right vehicle for accomplishing what's happening. So that's my concern.
Well, that particular item was brought up and discussed, and the issue was the fact that there was no tiers, with the way the law or the way the regulations were permitted, that it does penalize. So that, unique aspect falls to the fact that this is a much smaller lot compared to the rest of all of that.
So
I suspect, I don't know, the court of law would concur.
That's
Um,
what was discussed.
Yeah.
and that was-
Yeah, and I have to agree with Richard's assessment in that the BZA has a very specific and critical role, and it's very defined legally. And its purpose is not to modify city ordinances or to find fault.
Right.
If that's something that this body should have taken on, it doesn't go in front of the ZBA to do that. So that I think I would agree that, I'm not saying that the petitioner didn't have a concern that's legitimate. I'm just saying that ZBA was not the appropriate body to deal with it. And my personal test, when I think about it, is what would a judge say? Okay,
Right,
a judge would have thrown it out.
right.
Okay, I mean, that's,
Right.
he would have said, why are you wasting my time? That's not a ZBA issue. And that's kind of my test. I
No,
mean,
and
I just have to agree with Richard in this case.
Well, and that's something that we could bring up with the Board of Appeals, to remind them, but, that was the way it was decided, at that particular meeting. I do think that's one reason why they were afraid of going up to the, that we were afraid of
Right.
going up to the 50%.
Right.
Because we wanted to give some allowance, because it did appear that they were being penalized unfairly for
Yeah.
these particular,
Yeah.
this issue. So it was trying to find a appeasable manner rather than, waiting for the, planning and zoning to go through and revise the regulations, which would then have to require, further approval by the, council.
Right.
And that was going to be, probably a 6-month long process.
Right.
So that's, I think, how the Board of Appeals, address it, but it's a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is that essentially what has happened is they have amended the ordinances, because every single property that we saw in that picture now can put this size pool in with a 13.75% accessory structure, claiming they have the same unique problem that this property does. So they've, kind of done an end run around the typical approach to amending the rules. Again, I don't have a problem with this, which probably means we do need to revisit the way that the accessory structure, format is laid out. I'm concerned generally with this end run around, and I don't want to, for the petitioner's sake, I feel badly saying this because I don't want to put a 6-month lead time on this. I don't. And maybe we here today can approve this because we're comfortable, we're going to change the ordinance anyway, but I guess that's not up to us, it's up to the council. So I don't know.
What we're looking at right now is not the 13.75. We're looking at the additional 95 square feet for the pool. That's what we're tasked to do tonight. Am I correct, Carlos?
Correct. I think again, they had the choice on the size of the pool. They went, if this was 500 square feet, the Board of Adjustment, as you kind of indicated, would have circumvented any review coming back through this process.
What is the process at this point? If it's over by whatever it is, 95 square feet, do we have the authority to permit it, or is it over the percentage and it's over the percentage, full stop?
The commission has the, tries to mitigate what the external impacts would be, or look at how we mitigate the external impacts by that excess coverage. They do have a detention area in the back of the yard to handle that capacity. And it's up to the commission. I mean, the commission can say, no, it's inadequate and we're going to stop at 500.
But that's for the pool area.
Correct.
I mean, that 595
Mhm.
is already within the 13.75. It's not in addition to the
No, I understand,
13.7,
I understand,
you
I
know,
understand, yeah.
0.75.
Yeah. So we're just taking as already done, the Board of Adjustments.
It's
Yeah,
it's
it is
been
what it
done.
is. Well, my personal view is, I think we should just approve this with a key reminder to revisit this
Yeah.
so that we can clarify it.
Yeah.
So this doesn't become a freight train that runs away and, we've
Right.
got a ton of petitions in here. And then we're approving things we don't want under the guise of this new
Right.
regime that we're in.
Well, I think that makes sense. So is the petitioner on now at all?
No, I don't see them, and I'm afraid that they may have had some miscommunication on our end. And I do apologize.
Is there any?
This was one that we started in July and we had a storm, or it was in August, we had a storm. And the power, during the meeting, the power went off and we lost, and we had to, because it was a Board of Adjustment, we had to repost it, and that threw them off another 30 days. So I've had this application since April, and I'm not trying to make any excuses for the
Sure.
petitioner
Sure.
or so. And I know he's learned a lot about code over the past couple of months in there. And I'm sure he would have been here.
They normally do it.
Yeah. So, because it was the commission meeting the board meeting was last week or the week before?
Week before,
Yeah, that's right, because it's 16th, we changed our date. So,
right.
So, yeah, glad to answer any specific questions. And they, like, again, they reduced the size to comply with the coverage, the coverage requirement. And for staff, that was the issue. I think if this was at 10%, in there, they have a drainage well in the back of the yard that would have handled that capacity. I think it would have been easier.
May I make one other comment? Sorry to be dominating this, but my only other concern about this at all is the pool equipment and how that's going to be shielded from the neighbor's view. I realize they put it below their retaining wall, so they don't have to look at it, but how are we going to make sure the neighbors don't have to look at it either?
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. I believe there is a 6-foot-tall privacy fence at the
I see.
rear lot line.
Okay.
So, but we'll bring that up.
Carlos, are there any public comments on this before we?
Not any that I recognize. If anybody would like to speak regarding this petition, if you can show your hand. But I don't recognize any of the neighbors.
If we want to have further discussion, we can, but I think we do need to kind of, for the sake of our time, kind of, let's stay focused right now on the additional 95 for the pool.
I'm okay making a vote on this.
Carlos, do you have a motion?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Carol.
I'd like to read the motion, please.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I'd like to motion to approve the petition for site plan, community design, and concept stormwater management plan review for a pool deck at 724 Cherry Tree Lane. It was read before the commission on September 23, 2021, subject to staff conditions noted therein.
Motion's been made by Carol Wagner. Do I hear a second?
I will second the motion.
Motion's been seconded by Richard Brophy. Carlos, will you please call the vote?
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approve.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approve.
Commissioner Brophy,
Approve.
Commissioner Rich.
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner,
Approved.
Chairman Dragell.
Approved.
The motion passes unanimously 6-0.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to item B, which is 179 Stonely Tower Street. Petition type is a community design review for a new single-family home. The petitioner is Edward Tisserman with Foreign Properties, property owners, Foreign Properties LLC. Carlos?
Chairman, this is a proposed new single-family home, two-story, three-side side bay entry garage. There are no zoning issues regarding the lot area or its dimensions. And of course, the home and the improvements are within the proper setbacks. As we go through the guidelines, staff did not find any issues regarding the massing, roofs, garage, or elevation articulation, materials, the site grading and foundation. And then there were a couple of trees that would be removed that we would ask to be replaced through a landscape plan. Regarding stormwater, the on-site detention is provided in accordance with chapter 422. And we request that a defined swell be provided along the west property line. Again, we're getting more of this issue of where you have these swells that they're expected to do a quick turnaround. And while they do work, sometimes the velocity is just too much that it continues going forward and impacts adjacent properties. So they can do that either with the swell or through some French drain system. We applied the same technique to 9 Ramsgate Drive at our last commission meeting. And there, so I think they should work well and address the staff concerns. The petitioner also got written approval from the subdivision association. And overall, I don't have any comments there. I think everything has been met. The only issue, and I've noted it to the petitioner, is they have several development projects in the city of Olivet, but one of them has been kind of dragging along. We've had some concerns about the progress of the development in there. We've talked with the petitioner, and they're trying to secure that things are moving on and that he doesn't overstretch himself in that process, and he's aware of that, and he'll kind of address that to the commission tonight, trying to get him pinned down on a schedule in there. So be glad to answer any questions. Again, from a staff perspective, I think it meets the spirit and intent of the guidelines. There are no zoning issues, and again, the trustee association had signed off on the petition application.
Good, Carol?
Carlos, with regard to the schedule, the petitioner is the same developer for both sites, is that correct?
Pardon?
The developer of the house that you mentioned that's behind schedule is the same as this one?
That is correct.
Okay, so if we were to approve this tonight, how long would the petitioner have to get started and complete this project before?
And that's the thing within our codes, nor in practice is there any restrictions on there. It's not like you can't build you can't apply for a permit until you're done with the other permit. We've had developers that have had multiple permits out in time. Now, there was a unique condition, of course, the past 18 months with the pandemic, but the progress on this home has been pretty slow. And also some of the maintenance was a concern from staff in there. We had a discussion, and it would be a hard issue to ignore and not bring forward to the commission's attention.
So once we approve this, how long does it stay approved before?
They have an approved petition has 1 year of approval to start its footing and foundation. But after that, it's no longer tied to the approved petition. Then once you started your footings and foundations, you have to have an inspection every 6 months. So, and in this case, you usually will have a footing, foundation, and then generally the framing. And we've gone more than a year just in those two.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear about the schedule.
Carlos, what is the reason for the delay?
I would prefer to let the petitioner address that, but kind of indicated the pandemic and labor, and then also materials. And again, while I can understand the labor aspect of it, the materials, I mean, it's part of the game. You know, you can't wait out the market. And it's now, these were very unique circumstances. So, but we didn't have that same issue with other properties as they were going on. Then again, you have a responsibility that even if the pandemic is affecting you, keeping a sightly appearance is just a courtesy. And
Absolutely.
it's not a cost.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Carlos, can we bring on the
Sure.
development?
Mr. Cheeserman, I'm gonna move you over as a panelist. And then let me know if you want to have Pavel or Mr. Ivanchuk moved over also. Are you there, sir? All right. If you can state your name and address.
He's not muted, but we
Yeah,
can't
you're
hear
not
him.
muted, but we can't hear you. Still nothing.
You may need to choose a different source for your microphone. Sometimes,
Yeah, it may be that your microphone is set up either to the computer or your headset.
How about now?
Yes, yes, we can hear you now, sir.
You can hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. Sorry about that. Yeah, the issue was definitely the pandemic. I actually mentioned that I already process has started. I ordered the materials. I expected to show up at the site in 1 or 2 weeks max. So we're really pushing this house at Crabapple 4 to go as fast as I can. So and there was an issue of site being unkept. It was standing up empty. So we did clean it up, leveled it, restored the fence. So it looks a lot better now. Just waiting for the materials to arrive and start working.
When are those materials coming?
I expect no more than 2 weeks to start framing.
How long has it been delayed?
Well, it's we had the issue with foundation when we started. Then we have to drive piles, change contractors. It's just been kind of a mess. So finding the right contractor that's willing to start work was main part. What has it been? Almost I think almost a year since we started, but you know,
So
the
you've
crazy
been
stuff.
waiting for a year?
I've not been waiting. I've been working on foundation. There was complications with foundations. I think we had to drive 30 piles into ground that is 19 foot long. Again, switching contractors because they couldn't wait that long. So it was a gradual process, but foundation is done now.
When was the
It's-
foundation complete?
Was it about a month ago?
Okay,
I will just say, if I may,
go ahead.
as someone who's currently trying to build a house.
Yeah.
I've been waiting 4 months to get substructure steel installed. Lumber prices have gone like 6 times what they normally were. So this is a fairly unprecedented situation. So I'm sensitive. My builder calls and essentially weeps over the phone to me. He's doing everything he can. So I do feel for you. I understand that these are very difficult times finding people to do stuff. I think keeping the site well kept is something that we all have to do. But as far as the timing of the construction, I think there are some legitimate excuses for why that's taken as long as it has.
Gotcha.
For what that's worth.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I
Zach.
apologize. So wish some understanding, but I do want to go ahead with this process, and I do have another property that's ready to go. So we're kind of full force ahead, ready to go on this.
What kind of schedule is anticipated for this particular house?
I wouldn't imagine it takes more than a year, the whole thing. I would think less, hopefully. That's what I'm shooting for. Depends also again on if nothing happens, so.
Has the house been sold yet or no?
The new property I'm trying to build,
Yes.
yes, I own it.
Oh, okay. Are you gonna live there?
Oh, you mean the new house
The
that
new
I'm
one.
trying to build? No, it's not sold yet. No, I did not put it up on sale.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand. Carlos, is there anything else that you want?
No, I think point's been made, and we'll continue to work with Mr. Tiesemann in that process.
Okay, good. Does anybody else on the commission have any questions or comments?
No.
No? Okay, thank you. Carlos, are there any public comments related to this?
If anybody would like to speak in regarding to this petition, if you can show a hand located on the lower part of your monitor. Again, Mr. Tiesemann, do you want Mr. Ivanchuk to comment on anything?
If he wants to, I'm not sure.
And I'm showing no hand, so I would assume everything's okay. There we go. 1 second. Sir. All right, this is Pavel Ivanchuk. He's the architect of record.
Good. Sir, your microphone is muted and your video is still up.
Hi.
Okay.
Okay. Hello?
Yes,
You're
we
set.
can hear you. Good.
Well, I can answer to any questions regarding the design with regard to construction. Edward has completed one house before Crab Apple. The Fort Crab Yard, there was really significant issues with the foundation where it was a really poor soil that they had to drive piles. And anyway, but just to stay focused on the agenda today, I can answer any questions regarding the existing design.
I don't think there's anybody on the commission that has any questions. We think it's very nice. Well done.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else on the commission have any other questions or want to further discuss any items? And Carlos, you said no public comments,
I
Right.
see no other hands.
so do I hear a motion?
I'll move.
Go ahead, Richard.
I'll move to approve the petition for community design and concept stormwater management plan review for a new single-family home at 179 Stoneleigh Tower Street, as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated September 23rd, 2021, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
No second.
Motion's been made by Richard Brophy, seconded by Carol Wagner. Carlos, will you please call the vote?
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approve.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approve.
Commissioner Brophy,
Approve.
Commissioner Rich,
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner,
Approved.
Chairman Durgell,
Approved.
and the motion passes unanimously 6-0.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Carlos, let me know when you're ready.
And Chairman, tonight we have before you the first home of the Birdie Lane subdivision. That petition is for the corner home right along Old Bottom Road. It would be for lot 1. The property would be addressed as 503 Long Acres Lane. Now, just a couple of things on the backdrop. The final plat is still pending. That goes before the council next Tuesday. So the final plat has to be recorded and platted before any permits can be issued. In addition to that, they're working on the site improvements for the subdivision as a whole, which includes the detention system and of course roadway access in there. So they have the ability to submit for the community design review for the corner home because it does have actual frontage along Old Bottom Road. in there. So we've been working with the petitioner to go ahead and get the first step and process to get these going. Now, this is also the corner house, which there was considerable discussion at the preliminary plat level with the commission and the petitioner regarding the design of the elevations, especially there are two street side elevations, that on Long Acres and of course Old Bottom Road. So this is what has been submitted. There are no issues regarding the lot area or the setbacks. And bear with me 1 second. Well, I'm trying not to. There's the lot being imposed over the area that it would be in there. You would have a driveway on the northern side of your property. It's a 3-car garage with a side entry. And then you have the basic footprint. And again, the stormwater system for this property is all based on the master stormwater plan for the subdivision. So there's no specific on-site detention. There will be a swell consistent with the approved site plan that essentially that swell leads to a larger subdivision basin, detention basin that's been reviewed and approved by the Metropolitan Sewer District. Taking that into consideration, you know, this lot qualifies for not having its own on-site detention system, being that its square footage and area has been calculated in the larger detention basin for the subdivision as a whole. Be glad to answer any specific questions on that, as that is something we recently passed via ordinance. So next we get to the elevations, and bear with me 1 second. So these are the elevations. The true front would be along Long Acres. And that is the elevation on the right-hand side. The Old Bottom elevation would be facing south, and that's here on the left-hand side of your screen. The rear elevation by code would be this lower elevation here, and then the north building elevation is the side elevation. That's where your garage entries are at. Be glad to answer any specific questions. I have the architect and the petitioner available in there, but first, see if there's any comments or questions from the commission.
Any comments on the commission? Carlos, I did have a question on the front elevation.
Yes, sir.
Does that meet the 50% guideline?
No, and that was one of the other amounts. If you look at the cover of your staff report, items for the commission to discuss. One is the Old Bottom Road building elevation, and then secondly is the amount of brick masonry in there. And again, the guidelines are, if it doesn't meet the 50%, I am supposed to bring that to your attention in there. And then that would be something for the architect to address if it's part of the design concept, or articulate how that helps the overall design of the building, or what that intent was. So right now you only see masonry about a knee high on both Old Bottom Road and Long Acres.
Well, I'd like to further discuss that. And I'm not sure how everybody feels about the north elevation. There's a lot of siding there. So I'm not sure.
I'd like to discuss it further.
Good, good. You want to wait till we bring on the developer? Do you want to discuss it now?
I want to have another question, actually.
Oh, good, Carol.
On the roof line, I was just wondering why the developer's chosen not to make this a hip roof.
That's a good question for the designer. There's nothing in the code that requires it in there, and that's just part of the design of it. Or I wouldn't have an answer for you on that.
I think we ought to just ask that question, because
The hip roof, you mean flipping of the sides?
the cutout, so it looks like the same, it blends in with the house, the adjacent.
But remember, they're all going to be 2 stories, right?
Correct.
Right, but do we want them?
Sure,
To me, it seems like we ought to ask the question because,
right.
yeah.
I don't disagree. I'm just, making sure we're all on the same page.
Do you mind? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Carol, I agree. I think most of my concern relates to the Old Bonham Road elevation. And I think having a hipped roof would make it look less like the side of the house and more like part of the house. So I think that's one aspect that they may be able to tweak to help.
Looks a little
Improve
severe
it.
to me.
I agree.
Yeah, okay, I get it. Carlos, I got a quick question about, is this, how many different designs are there gonna be for this subdivision? Are they
There's
all
been-
going to be the same? Are they?
That we don't know yet. There's been discussion about having like about 3 to 4. Basically, there's only 8 lots,
Right,
but we don't know as of yet if each one is intended to look like this or not. That is something that they want to discuss, but that would have to be something at a different meeting once we get more, probably the next petition coming in there. And I think the council will probably have some discussion as it goes over the final plat, because some of the concern is they've had some concern about, how, because through our code, they will be making a request to turn over the street to the city, and that's traditional. And I think it's kind of required by state statute that if it meets our standards, that the city has to take it over. The concern is like the city would like to get as many foundations and heavy equipment in that property before that street is finalized. So we may be having a little bit of discussion about their schedule and seeing how far they go. Now, there are other factors to consider, because you can't build houses if you don't have the infrastructure, and we also want to make sure that everything is set in place. So there'll be discussions that would be ongoing with the developer on these, more from a council level, how best to address some of these issues as part of when they adopt the plat.
so
Makes sense.
if the commission hasn't approved the, their role, I mean, can we approve this? Don't we have to wait till they?
We wouldn't be, I don't believe that there's an issue of the commission doing the consent or the approval of the first home in there, because there is access off of Old Bonham in there. But you are correct. I wouldn't be authorized to issue a permit until we secure all those improvements.
Gotcha,
I think they're just trying to work ahead and get this process moving.
makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, can we, any other questions or comments, or should we bring on the petitioner?
Right. So there are 2, Chairman, or reset.
I have one.
Go ahead, Carol.
Richard, you had expressed some concerns about the Old Bonham Road side.
Yeah.
Could you tell us what those are?
Well, I think I brought this up months ago when we were looking at the plat for this property. And I don't think it was right to be decided then. Here we are. My personal view is that when people are walking along Old Bonham, which is something we all do regularly, we don't want to be looking at the sides of houses. And there are some instances of some fairly new developments where I think it's pretty bad. You're staring at the side of someone's house, not the front, and it changes the flavor, the environment that you're walking down the street and looking at. So I know that I expressed to the builders that there was a strong interest in getting a design for the house that was going to be pleasant to look at from Old Bonham Road. And one of the concerns, my reaction to this is they took the side of the house and they put an awning on it. I don't know that they've really made an effort to make that side of the house look like, maybe not the front of the house, but part of a dynamic house rather than just the side of a regular house. That's a concern that I have.
There's no side entry door.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the side of a house where someone put an awning on it. And I appreciate that effort. It's certainly better than just having the flat house there, but I think there may be more that can be done to articulate it, add some more dimension to it, to make it look less like just, I mean, if you look at the what Carlos has up right now on the right side, the Long Acres Lane elevation, you look at the left side, it's just a flat wall. Having something that comes out, protrudes, projects out in the lower floor, maybe something like that. Something to articulate that more and add some depth, I think would go a long way. Did that do it?
Yeah, I just wanted to see what your comments were.
Yeah. Thanks.
And just for a clarification on the comments regarding the doors themselves, because the two with the glass areas that you see here, they are doors. So I'm not talking about the design, I just in terms that there were no doors. These two here
Understood.
are doors.
Understood.
Ah.
Okay.
Based on the building plans, yes. There's a chimney in the middle and then two doors on the side.
Are you gonna bring
Are
on?
we set?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry about that.
Mr. Levine, I'm gonna bring you in. Mr. Levine is the architect of record of the plans that were prepared. And then I have the developer, Harry Freeman. So I'm gonna promote both of you at the same time to panelists. I'm not sure who wants to speak first. And again, if you can state your name, address, and have your video accessible. Alva, how you doing, sir? Good to see you.
I'm doing good. Nice to see you guys. I think I will defer to Harry to start.
Okay, he's setting up, so.
Carlos, is Harry on the call?
I'm not sure. Right now, he's coming in. There we go. We got
Great.
your video, Mr. Freeman. The audio is still muted, though. You're still muted. There we go.
How's that?
I can hear you, sir.
Good. Hi, my name's Harry Freeman with Freeman Homes, the developer of the Birdie Lane, the 8-lot subdivision. During the process of getting the preliminary plat approved, the councilman was correct that he wanted to have a side elevation similar, but at the same time, we had to have our driveway 100 feet away from Old Bonham. So unfortunately, with the style 2-story house or whatever style house we would put on there, it's a right-hand garage, but we have to try to incorporate some architectural features on the side. So we added the side porch with 2 doors, dorm windows with shutters, things like that, tried to appease it to look like a front elevation. But there's really substantially, I'll refer back to Alva because he's one that went through all the design process and going back and forth with the city asking for comments.
Just one comment, Harry, I believe we had 2 different versions of this house. Remember that this is a model home, and for the one on the corner, we were using the one that had a brick elevation on the front and on the sides. So this elevation is the one with a little bit of stone on it. We have 3 different versions of this house design, one with stone, one that's all frame, and one with brick. Addressing one other comment, Harry, from a design point of view, to make this a hip roof is not very difficult. And I think that's something that if you're amenable to that, is something easy to consider.
Yes, I'd be very fine to change it to a hip roof if it appeases the council. But I know, just to answer their questions, for some further houses in the lane, not every house will be a hip roof because not everyone wants a hip roof. I don't have a problem, since this is not a sold house, to go ahead and make it a hip roof. But I can't determine the other 7 lots that everyone's going to want a hip roof, because there isn't anything in the ordinances, or there's plenty of gabled houses throughout the whole city.
Yeah, I think the intention here is because this faces Old Bonham, this particular house in order to reduce the mass of the house, a hip roof would be useful here.
And I'm totally in agreement with that, and I would not have a problem with that.
And again, the other thing is this side elevation that on this particular house with the building permit plans that were submitted is a full brick elevation.
So, Mr. Levine, thanks for that explanation. Would you help me understand what we're looking at is not a brick elevation? So is that
Correct.
mismatch between, are we looking at the wrong thing at this point?
Yeah, we had two different sets of colored up elevations. One for again, they're using this material as sales tools as well. So the particular house on the corner is designed with brick on the first and second floor, on the Old Bottom side and on the front. The front has some other materials going on, but it has a brick elevation generally.
So, okay, that's understood. I think it'd be helpful for us to see that rather than what we're getting. So if there's a way for the plans to be
Well,
updated.
I can email a plain drawing immediately if I can get it to Carlos. Can I get that email to somebody right now?
Yeah, if the commission doesn't.
I think if that's okay with you.
Yeah,
If you can email Carlos, I think. he can-
Carlos, what email do I use for you?
Does it also have elevation?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna send the elevations.
Very good.
That would be helpful.
It would be C Trejo, CTREJO.
Your usual one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me see if I can get this.
But I mean, consideration might be to move on to the next item, so we can come back to this at the end,
That's probably a good idea.
unless we can get it fast.
I can send it to you right now.
Okay, we'll wait.
C Trejo,
That is correct, sir, at olivetmo.com.
Olivet Mo, all one word.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sending you all the drawings. I had a file that I sent to myself at home. So this has all the drawings, but you could open up the elevation drawings. I'm hoping I have the right drawing because I did not open this. Let's see.
Mr. Levine, I do have one other question for you, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Accessing that.
Nope, this one doesn't have brick on it. I apologize. Oops. What was the other question?
Well, the other question is, in the interest of trying to create a little bit more of a dynamic side to that house.
Yeah,
I'll note that the porch is it extends about 5 feet out.
I think
from the
6.
bottom.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then it looks like there's another 5 feet or so before the building line, the setback line. I'm wondering if there's a way for us to pull some of the interior space, like extrude it out a bit more, so we gain 5 or 10 feet of depth for that great room that happens to be inside right there, or something else, just to create less of a flat surface there.
No, I get it. Harry, that's really something for you to instruct me on. I can do that to get, again, where the great room is, that could be a larger room.
But I guess what my question is, for this first lot on the elevation, are we doing that specifically for the side elevation from the councilman? Because generally we're trying to have footprints. Generally what we're trying to do here is have 4 houses, 4 different elevations to pick from and build. These are not all custom built homes. So, I mean, the gist of it was to take one of the houses to dress it up as much as we could. If I start building out that great room, it would not be on every house. It would be just the first house. And I just want to have clarification. Are you doing that because of the old Bonham side elevation as that being a front, or what's your reasoning behind it?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, the answer is yes. It's to try to soften that view from Old Bonham just for that.
Then I'm totally fine with that. I totally
Okay.
get what you're saying. I'm fine if he wants to bump out that side to give a little bit more depth to the great room.
Yeah,
And
what I
enlarge it.
would do is bump out the great room and eliminate the porch altogether, frankly. And probably what I would do is have a hip on the extension and a hip on the second floor.
And I don't mean to speak for the rest of the commission on this. I'm just kind of
Yeah,
spitballing here, but,
Yeah,
No,
I
Richard,
don't,
I like your ideas.
yeah.
and I appreciate both of your willingness to workshop this with us. It's something that's near and dear to our hearts, so we appreciate your willingness to talk through it.
No, we know that it's very important to you, that we knew there was going to have to be some adjustments made, and we totally understand.
Mr. Levine, were you able to find the right?
No, I don't have, I'm not at work, so I don't have my full files here. So I don't have the brick elevation handy.
Would it make sense for you to make some tweaks and then we take a look at this at the next meeting with like a fully formed concept?
I was gonna suggest that also, just because I'd really like to see
Yeah.
what's gonna look like
Yeah.
before we approve.
Yeah, when is the next, could we make it onto the next agenda meeting?
Yes.
Is that every 2 weeks?
October 7th.
Okay, and what is the deadline for submission on that?
I'd like to have something by Friday, October 1st, so it can be posted on the website.
Okay, so I have a week to get it back to you.
Correct. Mhm.
Okay, Harry, that's really not a problem.
Okay.
Before we, table this, Carlos, I think we should see if there's, well, first of all, if there's any other comments that we want to directly address, but then also see if we have any public comments. Right now, while Carlos is checking for public comments, are there any other questions?
I've said enough. I think, thank you.
Good.
All right, we do have one. I'm gonna note it as Monica. Monica, I'm gonna promote you to panelist. If you can state your full name and provide your address and allow the video to be turned on, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Can everyone hear and see me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, yeah, so my name is Monica Lee. I live on 9366 Old Bonham Road, so not too far from that new development that Mr. Freeman, Mr. Levine are working on. So I've basically lived here my whole life, and I've run past that area for a long time, and I've seen it from, that overgrown kind of foresty looking property to now what looks like a huge plot of land. So while I can't specifically speak to the exact designs, as I'm not an expert on them, it does seem like very reasonable what is shown here, and I'm pretty excited for them. So that was just only the comment I wish to make of, I'm excited to see these plans come to fruition and have them constructed. And I'm confident that Mr. Levine and Mr. Freeman can make pretty good adjustments to make it very appealing to the eyes. As I think that's what we'd all like, and yeah, I'm pretty happy for it. So that's all I'd like to say.
Great, appreciate your comment. Thank you.
If there's anybody else that'd like to speak in regards to this item, if you can show your hand at the lower end of the monitor. And Ms. Lee, I'm gonna bring you back to an attendee. Chairman, I see no other hands.
Okay,
All right, so this item will be deferred to the October 7th commission agenda.
that sounds good. Thank you guys for being a part of it.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. We'll move on to item D. I'll make sure I didn't pass anything. Yeah, item D, number 8, St. Alfred Road. Go ahead. I'll go ahead and introduce it while you get everything set up. Well, it looks like you're ready there.
Yeah,
It's
we're
a
actually no.
community design and concept stormwater management plan review for a new single-family home. Petitioner is Doug Cohen with Douglas Properties. Property owner is Lee and Stephen Cohen.
Chairman, this is a construction community design review and stormwater management plan review for the construction of a new single-family home at the property address at 8 St. Alfred. It is a fully compliant lot with the SR district, and of course, the proposed improvements were found to be compliant with the city's zoning regulations regarding setbacks. It will be a two-story home with a side entry garage in here, and you can see kind of in your overlay. Here, it is a unique parcel because they are kind of set up high in terms of elevation. So you'll see quite a bit of elevations that are set or in place there. From the staff review and perspective, and they're the two items that we bring to the commission for discussion is based on the property owner that there is no subdivision review process for this. I believe it's Heather Hill Plat 2 or number 3. And then finally, some site grading concerns about controlling stormwater along the west property line. And again, it's the typical concern that when we get these swells here, they concentrate water. You know, the water is still going in the same direction that it's been going prior to construction, but because of the movement and the footprint of the new home, we start to concentrate water with these swells. And the concern is, can they really make that adjustment or turn along the property line and head towards the street or to the lower elevations? So in this case, we're asking for a more refined swell along the side property line or some French drain channel system to pick up some of that water and bring it towards the street and away from the adjacent property owner. Overall, I'd be glad to answer any questions you have your building elevations here, and we found them pretty consistent with the city's residential development and design guidelines. To answer any questions, I know I do have the developer, Mr. Cohen, Doug Cohen, online.
Any questions or comments for Carlos? Carlos, I just had a quick question that was in the rear, just about the drainage. And I was curious about how it might impact the neighbor to the east, you know, in the backyard. It looks like that they're really not making any changes to there.
Correct. I think the east has a somewhat of a higher elevation. They're slightly kind of leveled. I'm going to get a little closer here so you can see on those, but the impact's kind of minimal. As you can see, the higher grades are along here, and then it starts dropping. The top of foundation of the home, the existing home on the east, is at a higher elevation in there.
So
Is
the
that what
water
you were-
will drain all the way to the west?
Correct. It kind of goes in a diagonal
Okay,
from the upper right-hand corner to the lower left-hand corner.
okay.
And just so everybody's aware, the properties behind the subject parcel are set up in a higher elevation. I believe they start dropping down this way towards St. Alfred.
Gotcha. Okay. Seeing no questions or comments. Oh, go ahead, Carol.
Carlos, on the front elevation again, can we take a look at that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
One quick timeout. Did I lose Mr. Lewis or did he? Yeah, 1 second, Chairman, but I don't see him as an attendee. Ah, there he is. 1 second, sir.
When
Right,
did we
Mr. Lewis, you
lose?
should be back on. Sorry about that, sir. I'm not sure what
No
happened.
worries. I was able to follow the whole time. Just, yep, no good.
All right, Commissioner Wagner, you had asked, inquired
Yes.
about the,
Is that elevation, is that 50% brick?
yeah, in terms of the view, we don't do a precise calculation,
Mhm.
but it's pretty well close there once you take a look at that. And we look at just what is on the perpendicular elevation. So we're not considering the roof or the windows. So the brick is right around there.
Okay. That was my only question.
Okay, can we bring on the petitioner?
I'm going to promote Doug Cohen. Mr. Cohen, you should be promoted to panelist. If you can first unmute yourself and allow your video camera would be greatly appreciated, but then state your name and address for the record. And there we go.
How about there?
Oh, you're unmuted, but we still can't see you.
Okay. How about,
There you are.
okay, I don't see myself. Shouldn't I see myself?
I don't believe so. I think because you're the speaker on your side, you'll see us, but you won't see yourself.
Damn, I wanted to see myself. All right. I think this one will go a little bit smoother than the last one. I'll hold my tongue. I am the just the builder on this one. Don't be confused. This is for my sister who also married a Cohen. So there's a lot of Cohens involved here, but I have no ownership. I'm just the underpaid builder. So I am here to answer any questions. This house is actually the inspiration was originally from the house that we built a couple of years ago on Bond Hills, which off of Price there, about the third or fourth house in on the south side on Bond Hills Drive. It turned out really terrific. And this is the original inspiration of this. It has some similar features. And this, I think, is a terrific house. It's somewhat unique, but I think it's a pretty cool house. I'm really excited to build it. And I think it's going to be a great addition to the Heather Hill area and to the city. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Are there any questions for Doug?
I like the bricked in porch. It's very U City.
Yeah, it's nice. I think it's a good design. So. All right, thanks, Doug.
Okay.
Carlos, is there any public comments?
If there's anybody that would like to speak in regards to this petition, if they can show a hand on the lower part of the screen. I don't see any adjacent neighbors. We're down to the three, including myself. All right, Chairman, there are none.
Okay, seeing no further questions or comments, do I hear a motion?
I'd move to approve the petition for community design and concept stormwater management plan review for a new single-family home at number 8 St. Alfred Road, as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated September 23rd, 2021, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
Motion's been made by Richard Brophy. Do I hear a second?
Chairman, I'll second.
Motion's been seconded by Carol Wagner. Carlos, will you please call the vote?
Commissioner Rosenberg? Approved. Commissioner Lewis?
Approve.
I should have everybody. Okay. Commissioner Brophy?
Approved.
Commissioner Rich?
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner?
Yes.
And Chairman Jorgel.
Approved.
That was easier.
Yeah.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
Okay, see you guys later.
Okay, good. So we'll move on to other business.
Chairman, I don't have any meeting minutes for you. Ms. Waters did prepare several for us, so we should be catching up. But I haven't had an opportunity to go through and draft them.
Okay.
Or complete the review.
Let's go to reports then. Carlos?
Yes, reports. And hold on, bear with me 1 second. And I'm sorry. But this is see if I can get this to Well, I was hoping I can get this, one of our inspectors was up on top of the Oliver and took a great shot of the downtown skyline, including the arch.
Oh, wow.
And there, so apologize, I can't get that to download, but it was a,
It's an HEIC file.
yeah, that must have been.
So you're saying that people on the highest floors of that, I'm sorry to ask, but or interrupt and ask, but you're saying that people on the higher floors of that building can see downtown?
Yes, it was
Wow.
a really nice view on there, and I'm sure there's another way to bring it in, but I'll deal with it later. And there, so anyway, so construction goes pretty well on the Oliver. We are seeing progress on the old Ponderosa, which we now call the Plant Haven Center. Then with Easy Storage, so we got 3 major footing and foundations going on: the Firestone, Easy Store, excuse me, not Easy Storage, the Plant Haven, and then also Old Bonham School, not to forget their big addition in there. And that one was pretty impressive. Mr. Fairgraves, our senior inspector, went out there to get some pictures of the foundation. And again, I think, not to waste your time, but I think that there are some that because they have this emergency egress and the size of the foundations are just phenomenal on the footing in there. And I apologize, I can't get that one on either. But they were some 4-foot wide footings that went really down, and he got some really good pictures with people actually inside them, and I'll share those and get those posted on our website, because they were very impressive in there, and something we don't see routinely. This may be it. Yeah. Sorry. So wasn't able to kind of coordinate those, but though that progress continues on Old Bonham School. The retaining wall along the Olivet Crossing, the permits are coming in for that. They should be released late this week in there, and that'll be that timber tie wall along the south end of the development, and they're working on getting their plans for the residential structure submitted within the next couple of months. We've noticed along Rhyme and Irvington Court, a lot of the houses are starting to become vacant. We have a meeting scheduled with the developer as their final closing should take place by November. And then they'll start the permitting process for the demolitions on that work. So that, we'll have the 2 sizable structures coming in for review. The permit for the city's new community center, that should be also issued either late this week or by tomorrow or early next week. And then the Parks Department is coordinating with the Parks and Recreation Commission regarding when the groundbreaking would be set or scheduled for the public. So a lot of activity going on. It's been very busy, and it's really neat to see in there. So just wanted to note a couple of those items. We do have our next scheduled meeting October 7th, and then the 21st. For the 7th, like to have some continued discussion regarding that site coverage issues. We also talked to the city manager and the city attorney, and maybe having them both at our November 4th meeting. One to talk to Mr. Martin regarding the site plan review process and some of the comments from the commission. So that would give us at least 2 meetings to kind of compose some questions. Mr. Martin really would like to be able to address, at least to have some generalized questions to address, as opposed to being asked, on the spot of what questions they would have. And as he said, it would be a little bit more helpful, so he can do any research or analysis on that. And then second, Ms. Sondag will talk about the traffic mitigation plan for the north, what we call the northeast quadrant, there on Dillman and Dillman Industrial and Hilltop.
I read that plan. It's a very good report, and it actually shed a lot of light on the issues there. So I thought that was very interesting.
regarding the Great Rivers Greenway and the potential of running the Centennial Trail along the railroad corridor north of the Olivet Public Works. It looks like we hit a snag with the railroad, and the costs just keep escalating in there. So they're looking at alternatives, which I personally like because I think one of the alternatives is running along Gilman Industrial, and it'd be great to have that trail connection just come just north of us here in there and provide more opportunities to connect areas in the Hilltop neighborhood and Arrowhead neighborhoods with the community in there. So a lot of things going on. I'd be glad to answer any specific questions. We do have, I think, 2 House petitions that are currently under review. The Board of Adjustment is going to be active. They have some other items that they're going to be reviewing at their November meeting. I need to coordinate with those. Outside of that, that's all I have.
Very good. Any questions for Carlos? Okay, otherwise we'll move on to Greg. Greg, do you have a report for us?
Sure. First of all, I just want to give you some calendar items. Olivet Night Out will be next Thursday, September 30th, starting about 6 p.m. So that if you're interested in getting your neighborhood together, the council and the police and the fire will be glad to come by and visit your neighborhood. Secondly, we have a citywide yard sale that's October 2nd and 3rd. It starts at 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. if you have any interest in that. There's a DEA National Take Back Day. That will be October 23rd from 10 to 2. And of course, the Turkey Trot is back in person this year. I hope to see you all out there bright and early on Thanksgiving morning. So those are the items. A couple things I want to do also say is that Carlos reviewed the state of all the building projects, but I'm currently living in South County. As you can see, my temporary office is in an unfinished basement. You can tell from the blur behind me. So I don't get up to Olivet every day. And even when I do, I don't necessarily pass through everywhere. So I was at the police chief's prayer breakfast on Tuesday and rode over with the chief, and he was telling me about some stuff that I hadn't seen. So he took me for a tour on the way home of all the construction on Olive that I hadn't necessarily noticed. And it's just amazing. And this commission is in great part responsible for that. And so is, Carlos. And so I'd like to thank you all for that. It's just amazing as he goes over what's going on right now in construction in the commercial area, and all of that is fantastic. And I'll just report on one other construction project in the area. My house has been started. There's a rock in the hole, and we expect to start building the foundation in the next couple of weeks. So,
Congratulations.
Again, and that's my report, unless you have any questions.
I don't see any questions, so thank you very much. Good luck on the home building.
Thank you. Yeah.
Exciting time. All right. Any other questions or comments? No. Otherwise, we'll adjourn. I don't have my phone to tell the time. Anybody got the time? 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock, sir.
We'll call it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just get out the door real fast.
All right.
Don't leave your slipper behind.
Carlos, are we still recording or we turned off?
I will end here.